Most people I help recover from porn-induced sexual dysfunctions don't even realize that they have a problem with porn until they're in their 20s or their 30s. But the story that I have today from a young man who wrote to me, he discovered he had erectile dysfunction when he was only 15 years old and healed by the time he was 17. It wasn't quick and it wasn't easy, but if he can do it, then so can you. Anon writes, I'm 17 years old. I probably started porn at 9 or 10 years old. Full-blown addiction from then. I jerked off every day, maybe 3 times a day at most sometimes. And I mean every day. First, my morning erection went away at 14. Then I wasn't really interested in girls. I liked them but never thought of them sexually. Still didn't see any red flags. I could never get erections while making out with my girlfriend around that time either. I thought maybe I just need to have sex. All this time, my porn habits were getting more uncontrollable and darker. This is a process that so many young boys are in the midst of right now. And that's why it's so important that we have these conversations and that we learn about the potential negative impacts of pornography, not only to protect ourselves, but so that we can talk about this with friends and family and spread the word. And so parents can educate their kids, and eventually we can get this into public sex education as well, so that we can discuss pornography and not only the porn-induced sexual dysfunctions that are possible to develop, but pornography addiction, the effect it has on one's perception of sex and relationships, women and men, and how we use and objectify each other in a pornified world. So yeah, I'm glad that you're writing to me, because more and more stories like this, for every one that we hear, for every one that we read, there are thousands that go unspoken and unread. And that's a shame, I think, because we need to be having these conversations. He writes, I turned down many sexual relationships because porn was just so much easier. Eventually, at 15 years old, I was with a woman and could not get the slightest erection the whole time. Most embarrassing stuff ever, by the way. I went home and tested with porn. Boom, fine. I Googled it, and we know how that story goes. They tell you it's nerves or it's in your head. Then, as if by some miracle, we discover Gary Wilson's TED Talk, which introduced us to Gabe Deem and Noah Church. This paragraph, or last couple paragraphs, are like I'm reading my own story, except the part about finding myself. At first I was skeptical and didn't take it seriously, until when I tried to quit, it was the hardest thing in my life up till this point. It took me about 6 months of relapse until I said enough is enough. Some guys lack motivation to go on, but I was genuinely afraid that I damaged my body permanently, so that was enough for me to push through. It's impossible to know if you're addicted to something until you realize it is harming you and you decide to reduce your use or quit entirely, and you discover that you don't have as much control over your own behavior as you thought, and you're breaking those promises and those commitments to yourself, generally over a period of 6 months or more. And if you're curious about whether or not that applies to you, go check out my porn addiction test, short questionnaire that you can take that will give you a general idea of whether or not addiction to porn might be something that is affecting you. So find a link to that in the description below. The first 6 months were hell, dead penis and no sex drive whatsoever. It was terrifying not knowing the outcome. I even considered it might be a physical problem, but I never got erectile dysfunction while clicking on 100+ videos in my hour-long masturbation sessions. Yes, my case was pretty severe. The only light of hope I had was my morning erections, which returned at month 2. But they're still on and off. Sometimes I get it for weeks, then off for weeks, and so the cycle goes. It's probably my body healing from the excessive masturbation and porn, so I understand this. When some guys don't see significant progress within that first 90 days, they might give up hope, think, this journey is worthless, it's not worth my time and effort. If I'm going to be suffering with sexual dysfunction, I might as well be having fun along the way and watching pornography. But that is, of course, a huge mistake, and it is very common for men in recovery from porn-induced sexual dysfunctions to take longer than 90 days, even to start seeing progress, and certainly longer than that to heal completely. So if you're at month 4, 5, 6, even up to a year or longer, don't give up hope. explore other options. So there's something else might be going on, consult a physician. But if you truly believe that, yes, this is porn-induced, then don't give up, because it can take a surprisingly long time for some rebooters to see progress start to happen. And there might be more that you can do in order to facilitate that progress. There might be some things you're doing that are delaying your recovery. So if you want personal guidance and my insight into your personal situation, you can find ways to work with me, addictedtointernetporn.com. If you're going through this alone, and yeah, it's well worth it to get a consultation from someone who has seen so many others go through this. And I can potentially save you months or years of struggling on your own. And find some support there. Or I also run a group support and discussion. And that's something that we do through Discord now. So you can join that through my Patreon. And that's $40 a month. And it's a place where you can come several times a week, or just once a week, or however often you can make it, and speak with other people who are on similar journeys, get some insight, ask your questions, and feel like you have a team around you going through this together rather than going it on your own. So check that out. Links in the description below. Anyways, a little bit of libido surfaced at month 6, and I tried for sex. I wasn't able to penetrate, but it was the first time I was able to get oral sex. To be honest, I was hard enough to penetrate at first, but we were taking things at too slow of a pace for me, and I lost interest. This relationship did not last long because it was just a one-time thing. I was looking for women to rewire with. I was 16 at this encounter, by the way. The first 6 months of my reboot was no PMO, but after that I introduced masturbation, very limited, to see how it would affect me. It lowered my sex drive for about 2 weeks each time, so I wouldn't recommend. Yeah, porn-free masturbation has different effects on different people at different times in their recovery. It is something that in recovery or after recovery, some people can incorporate into their lives in moderation, and it's not a problem. It doesn't bring back the same problems that frequent porn use did. And that's my biggest recommendation with that, is just to recognize and consider them to be separate things. Using pornography and masturbating without porn, they're separate issues. And you can legitimately choose to abstain from both, but there are also those who realize, yes, porn is a real problem for me, but porn-free masturbation in moderation and under certain guidelines, it's not a problem for me. So to learn more about that, I wrote an article and made a video about it called Is Masturbation Healthy or Not? So check out that one on my channel or website. I kept trying to rewire, but things were hard, since it's a pandemic and people aren't willing to leave their house much. Anyways, after a total of 10 months rebooting, I've found someone to help me rewire. I was able to have sex on our first date. 3 exclamation points. Even though it wasn't great, it was a start. Second date, oh boy, sex felt so natural. I managed to have sex 3 times in a row and could have done 4, but she couldn't handle it. 100% erections and stamina increased with each round. It worked great. Healing isn't totally done though. I still have some time before it's unquestionably healed, but today was a big step up from mediocre erections and completely failing 10 months ago every time. I went from 0 to 100. And not everyone will experience success as quickly as you have after beginning to rewire with a stable partner. But some people do. Some people, after having sex for the first time, really enjoying it, that sparks something in them, and it just gets easier and easier after that. So you can experience fairly quick progress after a sufficiently long reboot and in the right rewiring situation. I only wanted to write this story when I was sure I can keep having sex without a problem. Remember, I had severe PIED and came into this a virgin, which makes it all that much more difficult, with no sexual experience. Now I think I'm ready to share. I tried to keep my story short, but I really hope this helps someone. Anon. Well, congratulations, Anon. You spent a big chunk of your childhood wiring yourself heavily, conditioning yourself to become aroused by a screen, escalating, it sounds like, in the genres of pornography that you were seeking out. And, I did the same thing. It's like a mirror of my own story in many ways, though you discovered the problem and healed much sooner in life than I did. And I'm glad that my work was able to be a part of that and to show you the answers that could really help and really move you in that right direction to get to this point where you're at now, where you're in a relationship and enjoying healthy sex. So congratulations on that, and thank you very much for sharing your story. I'm sure it inspires some other guys out there. People always want to hear success stories. They always want to see that, yes, this is possible. And especially a success story like yours where, it wasn't quick, it wasn't easy. You took 6 months when you first started trying to quit, relapsing before you realized this is, enough is enough. And you did whatever you had to stay permanently porn free. And then another 10 months after that before you've gotten to this point where you can enjoy real sex. So congratulations again. And anyone out there who is struggling with this issue, porn-induced sexual dysfunctions, porn addiction, there's a lot to hope for. You're not alone. Explore my website. You can go to my website, addictedtointernetporn.com, and sign up to my email newsletter to get a free PDF copy of my book, which contains all the foundational information to understand this problem and to heal, and find ways to get more support there as well. All right, that's it for now. Have a wonderful porn-free day, and I'll see you next time.